Hello, beautiful souls. Thank you so much for joining in. One moment, I'm just setting up something. It'll take me one sec. Welcome, welcome, welcome to one and all. So I've shared a few notes about what's going to happen today. And I'm very excited and delighted to be here and to be here live with all of you. So let's start out with a little meditation. I'm going to offer some suggestions. Feel free to follow those or do your own thing. Let's come into the present moment, letting go of what's already happened today, letting go of what we think will happen in the future, coming into the now. And let's open ourselves to receive. Ramana Maharshi often spoke about the necessity of grace for realization. So let's open ourselves to receive grace, not grace from me. I'm just a yogi. I'm no guru. But to receive the grace of ultimate reality, whatever you call it, whether you call it God, Goddess, Allah, the Self, Satchitananda, and the grace of those beings who have either completed the journey or who are very far along. I count Ramana Maharshi as one such being, who are available to help, even when they're no longer in their bodies. It's truly amazing. So let's call on that grace, that help. And then have the intention to receive this grace. And observe your body with that intention to take in that goodness, that help, that grace. We'll just sit for a couple minutes. I'm not going to do an extended, but let's really tune in to the divine. And let's tune into the deepest part of ourself, the part that can discern the difference between what's true and not true, between what's right and wrong. You could say good and evil, though those words can be a little complicated. Let's tune in to the part of us that is able to know truth from untruth. So we're going to go in between periods of talking and meditation, or I invite you to sit and listen reflectively the whole time if you like. But I also invite you to listen with discernment. And so, first and foremost, I am not a guru. I am not enlightened. I haven't completed, I'm not liberated. That's the Hindu word, moksha, right? Liberation. I still have identification with my ego. I still suffer sometimes a lot. So please don't take anything I say as the truth, but listen deep inside yourself and discern what I'm saying, whether what I'm saying is true or not. And I invite you to do that not just with me, but with everyone you meet. And most importantly, with people who either claim to be or are spiritual teachers. There's a lot of false teaching happening on this planet right now. Well, let me say the last thing I'm going to say is everything I'm going to say is my opinion or my experience. Please form your own opinion, follow your own experience. And with that caveat, I'll say why this is so important is because there's so much false teaching happening on this planet right now. So much. Specifically, we're going to talk about false teaching that's happening in the non-dual world. When I started my spiritual journey, I thought everything spiritual was good and true. If it was somehow spiritual, it must be true and it must be good. Oh, how wrong I was. Oh, how wrong I was. Then further along, when I was introduced to non-duality, I thought, oh, well, if it's non-dual, then it's not only true, it's the highest truth. Oh, how wrong I was. And if someone would please say hello, I'm not sure if the chat is working. I'm just curious if people are able to. I would appreciate that. You can even, just say hello. So we are gathered here today because most of what is called non-duality and is taught in the 21st century isn't non-duality. People within the tradition and scholars have come up with a term to describe this secondary set of teachings which aren't non-duality but appear to be non-duality. They call it Neo-Advaita. Modernized or water. Okay, good. Yes, it's working. Hi, Even. Hi, Paul. They call it Neo-Advaita. Personally, I think that's too gentle of a term. I call it fake non-duality because that's what it is. And it appears to be true and it appears to be helpful. And it took me down such a dark hole, and I'm not the only one. Oh, I wish I had it pulled up. I'll pull it up right now. I recently received a letter from someone, and I am going to share parts of it, and I have this person's permission to do so. Here it is. Hi, I am 47 years young, living in blank, and originally from Germany. Stumbled upon your YouTube channel about fake non-duality Last November, the non-dual shift happened after a long journey of seeking for 25 years, and it crushed my whole beingness and life. Totally demotivated, lots of suicidal thoughts. Nothing makes sense anymore. No purpose, no nothing. I don't even care if I live or die, etc. I would love to work with you, but I don't even have money anymore to pay my rent or food. A really bad situation right now. Without my landlord, I would be done. I know that I need to talk to you because I have been in that stage for several months now, and I honestly don't know what to do. The awakened people say, don't worry, it's just a stage. Yeah, easy to say for them. But I know people who were stuck in that for years or even killed themselves. That was my experience. I was stuck in that stage for years. I'm just beginning to emerge from, well, not just beginning, I've made significant progress in emerging from it. I get letters like this, not all the time, but this is maybe the 10th letter I've received by that. I know many people personally who would say the same thing, slightly different words, slightly different, circumstances. Fake non-duality, Neo-Advaita, is dangerous. It's my experience. It's this person's experience. Many people on this channel have shared their own experiences. So why is this? How is this? Well, the how is easy. Untruth is harmful. Untruth is stressful. The whole point of spirituality is to connect to the truth and embody the truth. And if a teaching isn't true, how can it lead you to the truth? How can it lead you anywhere but down? But it's a little more sophisticated than that, and we're going to talk a little bit today about some of the specifics of why non-duality is why fake non-duality is so tricky and nefarious. But before we go there, I'd like to spend a few minutes and reflect. First of all, I've asked you to not blindly believe anything I say or anything that anyone else says, especially in terms of spiritual matters. And I've also said that there's not actual non-duality, and there is a distorted version called Neo-Advaita. And in my own experience and other people's experience, it's that distorted version is straight up dangerous. So please, please take a few minutes and reflect on all this. Seeing if you agree or disagree, resonate or don't resonate with what I've said so far. So now we're going to get into the meat of what is the difference between Advaita Vedanta and Neo-Advaita. There are many, many differences. My opinion is that the main difference comes down to one of two issues, or that the main teaching of Neo-Advaita is one of two teachings that are false. The first teaching is there's nothing to do because you're already enlightened. And the second false teaching is that everyone should practice self-inquiry. So let's look at that first one first. There's nothing to do because you're already enlightened. This is so different from actual non-duality that I don't even want to call it Neo-Advaita. We can call it Neo-Advaita or insane Advaita. The idea that there's nothing for anyone to do because everyone is all enlightened, according to non-duality. And by the way, what I'm sharing today, yes, is my own experience, but it's also directly out of the Bhagavad Gita, directly out of the teachings of Adi Shankara, the founder of the school of non-duality, and directly from the teachings of Ramana Maharshi. So please investigate and look into these things yourself so that you can see that this isn't really my message. This is the message of Advaita Vedanta. So, according to Ramana Maharshi, some souls, all they need is to hear the truth once and they're done. Some souls, he said, would need to reflect on the truth for a period of time, and then they would be liberated. And the rest, he said, would require years of strenuous effort in order to realize. So right there and then, we can see that Neo-Advaita is in direct contradiction to the teachings of Ramana Maharshi. And I don't know what Adi Shankara said on the topic, but I do know what Ramana said. Complete and absolute contradiction. Here's where it's tricky. For some souls, I assume a rare few, that teaching is true. They just need to hear the truth once and they will realize. I've been around the satsang scene I started in 1998. I haven't met anyone that's happened for, but I'm sure it happens to individuals here and there. I'm sure. I just haven't met anybody who that was their story. So on to the second distortion of Neo-Advaita, that everyone should practice self-inquiry. This is really the root of Neo-Advaita. Most Neo-Advaita teachers will teach two things. They'll teach there's nothing to do, since you're already enlightened, and just inquire. They normally combine the two. It's a very rare Neo-Advaita teacher who will just teach there's nothing to do. Normally they combine these two. So what's wrong with practicing self-inquiry? Well, it's not wrong per se. It's just not the appropriate medicine for most people. Ramana Maharshi said that self-inquiry was only for the most refined or purified souls. He said it was only for people who had developed one-pointedness of mind and had a primarily sattvic mind and who had no interest in worldly pleasures or were not seeking happiness in the world. So let's break that down for a minute. One-pointedness of mind means you have the capacity to focus on one thought and continue to stay focused on that one thought for extended periods of time. So according to Ramana Maharshi, if you cannot do that, you are not qualified to practice self-inquiry. He straight up said, without these qualifications, self-inquiry will fail. So the next qualification Ramana Maharshi gave, that you have a primarily sattvic mind. So now we're going to get a little technical, which Neo-Advaita hates because it completely destroys their story. So in yogic philosophy, in the Bhagavad Gita, which Advaita Vedanta is based on, it says that our minds have three qualities: sattva, rajas, and tamas. And I'm not going to translate those words because there's no exact translation. They're very dense philosophical concepts. In brief, tamas is ignorance, extreme ignorance. Like you think of, like as teenagers, sometimes I did destructive things, nothing too bad, but sometimes teenagers will go out and dump trash cans. Very tamastic. No meaning, no perfect purpose, no concept of right or wrong, no concept of how that would harm others, just like density, extreme density. But tamas isn't bad. We all need some tamas because it's also stability and structure, and with no density, we'd float away. Rajas can be translated or understood to mean desire or excitability. In its purest form, rajas is just desire. It's desire for people, places, and things. Sex, money, job. It's most of us all day long are driven by rajas. We have a desire, we get excited, and we pursue that desire. That's what rajas is. Sattva, and these are qualities of the mind, again, these aren't feelings. Sattva is contentment, peace, unattachment. How you feel after a yoga class, a massage, watching a sunset in the forest. Chill, calm, steady. So according to Ramana Maharshi, you're not qualified to practice self-inquiry unless your mind is primarily sattvic. Most people's minds are not primarily sattvic. And the last thing Ramana Maharshi said, that self-inquiry is only those who have no interest in pursuing worldly things. That means if you have interest in extreme interest in having a partner, in making a lot of money, in pursuing your hobbies, in pursuing your passions, self-inquiry isn't the practice for you. Now, it's not my job to say don't practice it. It's my job to say this is what Ramana Maharshi said and to unpack it a little bit. Self-inquiry is for people who are content most of the time. People who aren't seeking anything in the world. So as you can see, these three things, and Ramana, this is a summary that Ramana came up with, which is based on Adi Shankara came up with a list of qualifications. And this is kind of a condensed version of that. Most of the world is not qualified to practice self-inquiry. Ramana didn't teach self-inquiry to most people. We've been given a false narrative about him. But if you read a book such as Day by Day with Bhagavan, you'll see he interacted differently with each person. So let's take a little time and reflect on this. Martin wrote, "Hi, amigo, greetings from Spain. Thanks for exposing pseudo-non-duality, aka ego-advaita." That's the best. You're welcome, Martin. Never heard that. I'm going to keep that one. So please, let's take a few minutes and reflect and digest. So Advaita Vedanta is a very subtle philosophy, and the process of recovering from it is subtle. There's very subtle distortions and nuances that need to be exposed and looked at. So please take a little time and reflect on these three qualifications that Ramana shared, my understanding of what those qualifications mean, and on the big reveal that the fundamental idea of Neo-Advaita, just inquire, is absolutely false. So take a few minutes, digest, reflect, and then we'll continue. All right. So I'd like to open it up for questions and comments. And we've already got a couple. And we'll see what happens next. See this? So Martin wrote, I came across Ramana Maharshi when I was 16. Since then, it stayed with me. Yes. The thing is, why Neo-Advaita is able to hook us is because it contains partial truth. And it'll provide a partial temporary experience. It'll give you a taste of enlightenment. Someone online I recently wrote, Neo-Advaita will give you a taste, but not the whole enchilada. I don't know if they have enchiladas in Spain, Martin, but yeah. So if anyone has any comments or questions, type them in. Otherwise, we'll wrap up. Yes, Paul, please. And just to clarify, not so much subtle recovery, that we're dealing with subtle ideas. And please continue. Yes, I would recommend meditation. It's just, and maybe even, self inquiry in small doses might be healthy. Um, that's the, and so first and foremost, I would say it depends on the individual. Meditation in general, yes, but that also depends. It's so okay, good. So this brings out so one of the other big differences is between actual Advaita Vedanta and Neo-Advaita is it's very individualized. You find a teacher who meets you where you're at because certain parts of the process, it just depends. So it's like Paul, here's Paul, seeking to recover from fake non-duality, and maybe more meditation would be harmful at this point. I don't know. Maybe walking meditation might be helpful. It's a very individualized process. Personally, I have just stepped away for myself. I stepped away from any type of non-dual meditation for right now. When the time is right, maybe I'll pick it up again, maybe I won't, don't know. But for me, I had to literally step away from all Neo-Advaita, and then even take away from anything associated with self-inquiry. So that's what was helpful for me. Yeah. Self-inquiry in small doses, again, this is where I'm not qualified to give you advice on that because I'm not a guru, but also I don't know your specifics. So when I work with people, it's like we tune in together and find out what the individual person needs. Personally, I found anything that is dissociative from my body, my mind, from my body and my emotions is not helpful for me. It's like I need to get into my humanity. So things like, for me, self-compassion, observing the body, that's a Vipassana practice. And then I do a variation on that, observing the body with the intention to take in divine energy, things that are more grounding and more connected to my humanity. Journaling, nature, dancing, those are the things that have been most helpful for me. Beautiful. Enjoy. So unless you're going to become a monk or nun, it's essential to learn how to enjoy life and to enjoy, in my view, and this is my view, I don't know that, now we're talking less about Advaita and more about the process of recovering. So my life depends on learning how to healthily enjoy life. Yes, without attachment. However, finding health in psychological terms, healthy attachment, which is called bonding, how to have healthy bonds with people, places, and things. That's a whole other issue, attachment and aversion. That's a deep kind of philosophical. But what I will say is learning how to live and be a human being, and finding spiritual principles and practices such as karma yoga or bhakti yoga that are a little more grounded and in touch with my humanity, because I spent so many years trying to dissociate from all my thoughts and feelings, from my human self. In Advaita terms, you'd call it the relative self, or the technical terms, casual body. So, yeah. So I'm all about decreasing attachment and aversion. However, before I can do that, I had to figure out, pardon my French, what the F, I'm not going to say it, but what the F I actually liked and didn't like. What works for me and what doesn't work for me. Setting healthy boundaries with people, pursuing the things that are healthy. So that's why that's why I don't hop to the attachment aversion thing. I'm aware of it. I've practiced it. But the thing is where I'm at in my process is learning how to be a healthy human being. Yeah. Well, beautiful, everyone. This has been a really sweet gathering. I think it's one of the first times I've planned one in advance. Normally I just hop on here and do them. So, wow, and thank you for so much participation. So, So, it's fun, huh, Paul? Now, okay, Martin, now we're talking. Now we're talking. Martin said, explore the aversion, stay with it and let it speak to you, embrace it. That's emotional work, and it's also what I'm working on. That's the approach to meditation that works for me in this process of recovering. Because right now we're not really talking about Advaita Vedanta, right? We're talking about recovering from Neo-Advaita. And by the way, that practice would help you on a traditional Advaita path. And on a traditional Advaita path, that's something you would learn before learning self-inquiry. A true guru, let's think about this for a minute. A true guru, are they going to teach someone self-inquiry who has strong attachment and aversion? No, absolutely not. Not someone who knows what they're doing. You got to take care of the preliminaries. Self-inquiry is one of the most subtle spiritual practices I've ever heard of. And so someone's mind who isn't subtle, you're setting them up to fail. And what I've learned and others learned, you're setting them up for extreme disaster. So love it, Martin. So let's sit just for a couple minutes, digest all this. I'll probably have a few words at the end. So I'm going to post a link, 2 links. One is to, I've done quite a bit of writing about Neo-Advaita on Quora. Unfortunately, with Quora, you have to log in, but it's very simple. But I hope those writings can be helpful. I'd like to thank Martin and Paul. Many people have said those writings were very helpful, so please feel free to check them out. Martin and Paul, thank you so much for participating. Really enjoyed your comments. So Martin, just to let you know, a couple of your comments I didn't read. That's because nothing wrong with what you said. My policy is I don't name any teachers by name. That's just where I've come to. I started this channel naming specific teachers and only under very specific circumstances. So you're free to do whatever feels right to you. And I just wanted to let you know I saw those comments, wasn't ignoring you or them. Martin wrote, true, Ego-Advaita seeks to jump the line and bypass everything without a foundation. It's brother Martin, well said. Without the proper foundation, the foundation and purification. Without the proper foundation and purification, self-inquiry will wreck you. I speak from personal experience and from many people I know. It does require a foundation. It requires a foundation of, Ramana summarized it, one-pointedness of mind, primarily contented mind, and genuine, not like, oh, I'm depressed, I don't want to live, but genuine detachment from worldly things. If you don't have those 3 things, according to Ramana Maharshi, you shouldn't practice self-inquiry seriously. Short term, as someone who's recovering from Neo-Advaita, I wouldn't do it. For someone who's maybe, for someone who's very grounded and hasn't gone down the Neo-Advaita path, I bet short periods of self-inquiry would be helpful, giving you a rest from the ego mind. You are welcome, Martin. Thank you to you. So I do coaching and mentoring on a variety of levels, and I'm going to post that website now, my website. I'm happy to have conversations with anyone to see if you feel like I can be of service to you. There's my website. This was delightful. And actually, Paul and Martin, it was you, thank you to everyone who listened and watched, I was hoping to be able to interact, and what sweet interactions they were. Helpful for me, and I'm hoping helpful for the 2 of you. and to others and that's the beauty, is your questions and comments address issues that anyone on this path. What's our spiritual path? Recovery from ego-Advaita. Anyone who's on that path, I believe, would find your comments and the dialogue that came helpful. So thank you both so much for sharing. I wish everyone a blessed day. I anticipate doing a live broadcast like this again. Take care, beautiful souls. Big love.